Thank you. Is it okay? Like this? Okay, perfect. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Once again, good afternoon, dear guests in our audience here and online, ambassador, representative of the government. Thank you very much for joining. We know that many people have joined online. They sent us messages saying that they are joining online. So our audience is rather big. Today, we are presenting the results of third survey of Ukrainians in Ireland. And if you are following us, you know that the previous ones were on integration and on the general situation of Ukrainians who arrived to Ireland. Thank you. So I just want to start by saying that today we have this survey and we conducted it in for the Ukrainians in Ireland and mostly for the government who is taking care of Ukrainians in Ireland. But unfortunately, Ukrainians in Ukraine, with whom our sympathies today and our hearts are really beating and thinking about the people who are continue to suffer from Russian aggression. And just recently, we marked the second anniversary of full-scale invasion and basically entered the third year of war in our country. And with every day that the number of casualties and number of people who are killed by Russians in Ukraine is growing, the uncertainties of those who left is also growing, because we don't know when this will be over, if it will be over, how it will be over, what to do for the people who lost everything, what shall we do after the temporary protection is over next year, how to establish ourselves in a new society. And that's why this survey is to answer those questions and to help better understand the situations of uncertainty and better navigate the uncertainties. Today, you will hear the information that will focus on demographics. So you will find out who among Ukrainians are based in Ireland, what impact of war has them on these people, why they decided to come to Ireland, what are the key successes and challenges of their integration, of their studying, living, going around the country, experiencing cultural situation. And this survey focused on specifically on employment, because this is one of the most important parts of integration for every person. When a person is able to work, contribute, and feel herself useful. We also asked our respondents about volunteering, and this is another part. This is important for our organization because we are a volunteering-based organization and 99% of our people are volunteers. I just want to say a few words about Ukrainian action in Ireland, and everybody who is here in this room, and I hope online, already know a lot about us, but we are a registered charity in Ireland with three priorities of work. First is to help Ukrainians integrate in Ireland. Second, to provide humanitarian and life-saving assistance to Ukrainians in Ukraine. And finally, to advance and promote partnership between Ireland and Ukraine. I encourage you to sign up to our newsletter by this QR code. This way you will be receiving more updates about our work and what we do. You can also find the link to the newsletter at our website. I think the main part of this slide is just to say that daily we are reaching out to more than 30,000 Ukrainians in Ireland with our social media, but also with our live events. We are organizing cleanups, we are organizing marches for peace, rallies against the war. We also, in partnership with Irish Red Cross, run a community center in Rathmines in Dublin. We organize a lot of events, and many Ukrainians trust us and reach out to us with their questions, with their messages, via emails or via social media. And we are very grateful to our communication and social media team who is supporting us, our communication with people. The survey that we did before did not just stay in Ireland and was not only promoted here in Ireland, but it also got a very big international recognition. First of all, the survey results were presented, of course, to the government, to the Department of Taoiseach, to the elected parliamentarians at Oireachtas. And this survey will also be presented in April in Oireachtas and to the NGOs in Ireland. But we also presented the results of our survey and our approach to using this high quality data at the regional consultations with NGOs in Europe, which were organized by a United Nations Commissioner for Refugees, UNHCR. And we are very grateful for this opportunity to present the Irish experience at such a high level in Geneva, in Switzerland, to all the other organizations who are working with refugees and people who were displaced by the war or conflicts. We were also invited to speak about our work and present our results in Brussels at the Ukraine Advocacy Forum and also at the Advocacy Forum in the Nordic countries and many other organizations that are based around Europe are reaching out to us and asking about this survey because we are so far the only Ukrainian organization who is conducting survey at such a level and doing this kind of data analysis of the people who were displaced by war. So big congratulations to the survey team who put so much effort into making it possible. This survey became possible due to the partnership, and this is a red line in all our work, because without partners, without people who support us, people and organizations that support us, our work would not be possible. And we would like to say special gratitude to the Department of Children, Equality, Disability, Youth and Integration of the Irish government, and of course to the Embassy of Ukraine in Ireland and to Her Excellency Larisa Herasko, who has been supporting us from day one on our journey to help Ukrainians in Ireland. We are also very grateful to the opportunity to present this survey at such a beautiful location in the heart of Dublin. And we would like to express huge gratitude to Guinness Enterprise Center for hosting us here already for the second time. We also want to say thanks to Ukraine Civil Society Forum and its members, because it has been our amazing platform to reach out with our key messages. And it has been an important tool to promote the messages among the NGO community, but also to the government. Of course, partners and individuals who shared our survey so that we were able to reach out to thousands of people across Ireland. This is a huge job, and every repost, every like was really, really important. Of course, as I already said, to our Ukrainian Action Communication and Management team who have put long hours and their energy into making this happen. And of course, partners in Ukraine who actually helped us to make the data analysis and design of this presentation. At this stage, I would like to give the floor to our ambassador, Her Excellency Larisa Heraisko, Ambassador of Ukraine to Ireland.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to be here today. And first of all, I would like to thank Ukrainian Action for everything what you are doing in Ireland for our community, and not only for our community, let's say in all dimensions, and for conducting this third survey. And thank you so much, Department of Children, for supporting this idea and this project, and actually for our fruitful cooperation during these last 2 years, because Department of Children, let's say, in the front line of helping helping for Ukrainians and accommodating them. This third survey will be the results of this survey will be very important for the Irish government, because there are many discussions around Ukrainians here, and of course for our government and for our embassy, because we want to know and to understand better the needs of our Ukrainians, and what can we do more to protect the rights and the interests of our citizens abroad. And on behalf of our government, I want to say that we will encourage all our Ukrainians to return home after the war and after our victory. So thank you so much, all partners, for conducting this survey. We will use the results in all spheres of our activity, and I hope later this month, these results will be presented in Oireachtas. Thank you so much and good luck. It is very interesting. I'm looking forward.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ambassador. Indeed, your support has been instrumental in reaching out to Ukrainians, and we are very grateful that you are with us. And I would like to invite our next guest, Nicola Tickner, from the department, our great partner, and thank you very much for supporting us in this survey.
Good afternoon, everybody. And thank you, Your Excellency, for your words, and a special word of thanks to Elena. I'm really delighted to be here this afternoon. And I'm really looking forward to the detailed results that are about to be presented. Closer? Yeah. Okay, so I'm really looking forward to the results that are going to be presented. I just wanted to say a couple of quick words as to why I'm here today, representing the Department of Children, Equality, Disability, Integration and Youth. So I'm the head of data and analytics in the department, and I'm the department's senior statistician. So since early 2022, myself and my team, we've been working on Ukraine data. So what does that really mean, Ukraine data? So in practice, it means we've been looking at data on the number of people arriving from the Ukraine. We're putting systems in place so all of government are aware of these critical figures. How many people are seeking accommodation, how many people are being granted temporary protection, etc. And my team is working tirelessly to make sure government has that kind of data for planning purposes. And government has that so that it can respond to Ukrainians' immediate needs. And while that data is really important, it doesn't cover the experiences and the aspirations of people like many of you here today who've moved home and now you're facing a new challenge. What are your hopes? What are your plans? So that's why when Ukrainian Action in Ireland approached us about this third survey, we were more than delighted to support them. So the information that's going to be presented today is going to be invaluable to all government departments. It's going to help us understand what people's plans are, what their concerns are, help us have key information so we can focus our efforts in the areas that are being highlighted. So as a statistician, I was really delighted to see the response rate. The number of people that respond to this survey represents over 10% of all Ukrainians who are here in Ireland. As a statistician, that is amazing sample size. an amazing response rate. I wish all my surveys were that good. It's fantastic. So I'm really looking forward to seeing the results. They're going to give us a really, really robust data set with which to work with. So once again, thank you so much for being here today, and I'm really looking forward to the results. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicola. And it's really important that how you said it, that you can get numbers, but you need also experiences, because not every number can be interpreted differently. And now the main part will be now happening. But before that, I would really like to say once again a huge thanks to this team who made this possible. It's people who are in this room, behind the screen, at home. It's a team of about 12, 13 people, volunteers who basically made it possible. And I think that people who made this beautiful infographics, people who organized this beautiful premise, beautiful posters, this stunning presentation, people who helped us to build the Zoom link to ensure that it's working, people who will take photos, who analyze the data. I really want to mention everyone because it's huge work. And on the top of this iceberg, of this huge work, was one amazing lady whom I want to bring to the floor and give her the microphone for the rest of the presentation. Olena Redruhina, our founder and the leader of this survey. Thank you very much for doing this, Olena. We know how much work it is.
Thank you very much. So yes, my name is Olena. First, before I start talking, and you will want me to stop in a few minutes because there's so much information there, I will overwhelm you that bit, I promise. I want to ask the audience online that our chat now is switched off due to technical reasons. We will take all the questions from online audience as well. We know how many of you are there. It's just apologies, chat is off now, but at the end of the presentation, we will switch it on and you will be able to ask all your questions. And I aspire to answer most of them, but we'll see how it goes. So back to the room. I will be talking about survey highlights in a minute, but before that, I just want to ask how many people who are present here in the room attended previous presentations, second survey presentation? Oh, wow, guys, and you're back. Thank you very much. Just last time I was so worried that it's just so packed with data and information, and this one is not going to be any different. So you're here for a nice 40 minutes of numbers. Let's just dive in. Survey highlights. First of all, this is our online survey, so we accepted only online answers. It lasted 20 days only in January, a month ago. Our target audience was Ukrainians in Ireland who found protection from war. Distribution methods included social media, Telegram, groups, chats, everything possible. We had a YouTube video, and of course, we leveraged personal messages. Language of questionnaire was Ukrainian as the only official language of our country, Ukraine, and we accepted responses in all languages, and we received them in Ukrainian, Russian, and English, and processed all of them. Demographic. Who are our respondents? So first of all, we received 4,678 responses. 4,678. These only adults. These adults represented 3,651 children. So in total, our survey represents 8,329 people, which, as rightly was pointed out, is almost a bit more than 10% from estimated number of people staying in the state. Gender-wise, majority of our respondents are women. And in terms of their age, we have all the ages represented, mostly between the age range of 35 and 45 years old. So working age, which is important for our topic, employment. In terms of demographic, we can see that a number of people who are not in the relationship or divorced or separated is remaining the same. However, number of people who are married or in partnership but separated with their partner, which is kind of used to be typical in 2022, as you can see here, it was 38% of respondents. That number dropped to 16, and we see an increase of people who are united with their family. So this numbers tells us that we can see a trend of family reunions here in Ireland. Number of children, as you can see, 28% of people have one child, 16% have two children, and more than half, a bit more, 51%, do not have children. Now, if people have children, 17% of them would be of preschool age, 51% would be of primary school age, and 31% of secondary school age. Now, in terms of demographics of our respondents, we covered the entire territory of Ireland. Majority of respondents were from Dublin, Cork, or Kerry, but we covered even the smaller counties such as Monaghan, Offaly, Longford. We covered them all. 99% of our respondents have temporary protection status in Ireland. After demographics, I would like just to quickly talk about why people are here, because we had this question in our survey since 2022, which is what is impact of war. And we can see here that the numbers did not change dramatically. And when we compare them year to year, it looks like, yeah, 20% of people have their town occupied, doesn't grow too much. 14% of people have nowhere to return, their accommodation damaged, 10% have their accommodation destroyed. When we looked at this data, we had a feeling that it doesn't reflect the reality. And our 4,000 respondents, they kind of fixed it. They left us many comments. There were opportunity for them to choose the other option. And they told us that your questions are not really relevant to present day because the biggest threat here is regular missile attacks on the entire territory of Ukraine, is geographical proximity to Russia, and any minute they can cross the border and invade different areas again. And also, many people said that children are suffering from constant air raids, from constant hiding in bomb shelters. It impacts their well-being so much, and this is why they're here, to protect their children and to protect their well-being. And then I was thinking on how to demonstrate this to you. So on a day when I worked with this data, I analyzed it. This is what happened in Ukraine. You can see that it was 15th of February, just a random day, absolutely random day. Missiles were flying all over the territory of Ukraine. And you can see a city of Odessa here. They were lucky that day. They were not lucky later, a couple of days ago, when residential buildings were hit and 5 children were found dead. And several of them were covered with the bodies of their dead mothers in their beds, in their homes. This is Ukraine. This is what people come to find shelter from. So my apologies that I'm bringing up this very sensitive topic, but I just wanted to reiterate that there is no such thing as safe regions in Ukraine. There is no such thing as safety. That's why people come here. Surprisingly, they're holding up pretty well. We asked them question on psychological support. There is no big change. A few more % of people found their therapists. Other than that, there is no significant change. So let's move on to conversation about Ireland. Why Ireland? I know this question is of interest for our Irish audience, and main topic is English language, of course. Second reason is recommendation by relatives, friends. Then it's very far away from Russia, and also accommodation support from state is an important reason. I also add here this graph that will give you a bit more information if you want to have it. Now, the blue line, it shows the main reason. So we asked people top 3 reasons. Blue line shows the main reason. And as you can see, English language is the main reason for every second person. And then if we add all 3 reasons all together, the dynamics doesn't change. It's still the same reasons. It's just they're maybe a bit rearranged. But these four are top main reasons why people choose Ireland as their temporary protection country. Now, I know there is a lot of interest on secondary movement. If people are coming to Ireland from other places. And I can report that we do not see a big dynamic of people accepting receiving temporary protection status in Ireland following temporary protection status somewhere else. So you can see that it's still 1 or 2% of our respondents who received temporary protection after having it in a different country. And if we take amount of people who arrived in certain season as 100%, we can see that there is no increase in people coming from different countries and receiving temporary protection after having it in a different country. Top 5 countries that people are coming to Ireland after having temporary protection there is Poland, Czech Republic, Bulgaria, Spain, and Germany. Interesting number, 42% of people were employed in that other country. And you will see how close that number is to the number of people who are employed now in Ireland. Reasons why people left that other country. Top 1 is language. You can see that all those countries do not speak English as their main language. That's why it was challenging for people to find their way around it, especially in relation to children education. It was hard for children to navigate completely unknown language. Employment, of course, was challenging, not having a local language. Accommodation issues and climate was one of the big reasons for the southern regions. In terms of plans to remain in Ireland, we can see we have new numbers for you. So, number of people who decided to stay in Ireland permanently, who have an intention to stay in Ireland longer term, increased by 12%. And number of people who doesn't know or who are going to go home, it decreased. Now, this number can be explained in several ways. So maybe some part of some portion of people who decided to go home, they already left. But this is just the numbers, the data, and we see that every second Ukrainian, 53% of them, would like to stay in Ireland longer term, which is not surprising considering what I've shared with you about what's going on in Ukraine just a few minutes ago. Integration, so what's going on then? So they are here. Let's see how they are integrating. Let's dive straight into their challenges. They will drive our conversation today. So 13% of people reported no challenges, which is brilliant. 21% of respondents said that the top biggest challenge for them is accommodation. Now, we will not be talking about that in detail today. We will just briefly touch on it and move on. Language barrier is reported as the second biggest challenge, and we will talk about this in detail today. Medical services is in top 3 challenges. Again, it was not the subject of our conversation today. This is why we will just very briefly touch on it. And then we have employment challenges, lack of public transport, complexities in integration. We'll talk about all of that today. And then I've highlighted 4% clarity in future status. When we discussed the report with my team, they said, okay, Elena, can you double check the numbers? That can't be 4% because many of other challenges are connected to lack of clarity of future status. But numbers are numbers, only 4% of people said this is challenge number 1, while anecdotally, this is one of the biggest challenges as well. We will not go in detail on that. Accommodation, very quickly, because you all know this statistics, it's just what our survey showed. 84% of respondents live in state-provided accommodation. Now, 45% of them are in hospitality type accommodation, hotels, hostels, 39% in state-supported accommodation. This graph has a bit more details, so let me help you to navigate it. 10% dropped in terms of people who are staying in hospitality type accommodation. We think that this is an amazing trend. We're very happy to see this trend. 12% increase in housing provided for a symbolic free of charge or separate housing, which is effectively demonstrating how IRP program is working. And we would like to celebrate that number of people who are renting at market price increased by 3%. Yes, I know 3% may not sound like a lot, but we're very proud of those people who can navigate rent crisis in Ireland. And this is now 11% of people who are renting their own accommodation. Now, as I promised, we won't go into detail with health, but this is people's health self-assessment. And you can see that it's a bit, what's the opposite of improved? Not improved. Not improved. And it moved more to the neutrality from being a bit more positive. Maybe that's why people put medical services as one of the top 3 priorities. What I wanted to see is the age. So where is it coming from? And I kind of added this view of percent of people facing challenges with medical services by age. And this shows us that pretty much all ages face medical challenges, of course, with the increase of more senior people. Now, in terms of documents, we can see that people has PPS numbers, people have yellow letter, the Department of Justice, which is brilliant. Number of medical cards decreased, which might be associated with the fact that people are now entering employment and they're no longer entitled, which is fine. Bank cards, 77% of people have them, which is brilliant if you will consider what we saw in 2022. But the number of people who have Irish residence permit card is only 26%. And we know it was a goal for majority of Ukrainians to have this card, because we know that we hear the anecdotal reports how it impacts rent, how it impacts to be selected for rent, that if you don't have this card, then it's challenging, how it impacts employment. So there is a little bit of a concern in relation to that number being that low. Now we're moving into a big conversation about English language, and good news. Good news is that people learn, people improve their fluency of English language. You can see that in the bottom we have basic level, and then up top we have fluent, and you can see how the dynamic changes and number of people who speak better English improves. If we have to put it in one number, 41% of respondents speaks English above average level, and this is a 6% increase compared to 2023. So we will celebrate each and every person of those 6%. Now, this graph gives you more information in terms of what they're actually doing to study. And we will now look into a bit more detail into people who are attending face-to-face courses. It's 40% of them, and people who look for courses, who would like to attend courses, but they haven't found suitable one yet. So in-person English courses, we can see that people who attend English courses in person, their level of English is above intermediate. So you can see that half of people on pre-intermediate level attend courses intermediate. So that's the level of knowledge that is requiring studying in the classroom. If we take a look at the unfulfilled demand for courses, meaning that people said that they want to study English in a classroom in the courses. So we can see that most of them need the basic level of education, and then the further we go, less the demand. Now, in terms of funding, 78% of those courses are funded by state, and we are grateful for this amazing initiative. 16% are run by volunteers. And as a volunteering organization, we just want to say thank you to each and every one of those volunteers, because they're doing an amazing job, and we can see improvement. And later on, you'll see how much language impacts employment and many other areas of people's lives. So thank you to those volunteers. And then there's a few percent who is paying for the courses themselves. Now, in terms of studying English, we had a question, do people need more help? And every third respondent confirmed that they would like to have more help. Now, if we look at this graph, I think you will be able to guess what kind of help they need. So look, this graph shows us number of hours that people are studying English, and 69% of them are studying 1 to 5 hours per week. Normally, it's either 2 or 4 hours per week, and then you can see that this kind of workload decreases. Now, those who study less hours, that people are the most ones who want help. So, can you guess what kind of help they need? Right, they need more courses, they need more hours, they need more types of courses. So they either need just more hours per week, or wider variety of time, or more structured learning process for those who attend speaking clubs, or those who attend speaking clubs want more structured learning process. Basically, people are there, people want to study. Some of them have no access to courses at all, and we'll talk about that and about transport issues in a minute. So the insight from this survey is that deficit in English fluency affects multiple areas of integration, including employment, and we will show it to you in a minute. But what we suggest to do while we're here on this conversation about English is to enhance the diversity and intensity of English courses by introducing evening courses for those who are employed. By the way, there were a lot of messages from people who are in employment saying that their English is still really bad, they want to learn, but all the courses are in the working time. Increasing the number of hours for courses that currently run only a few hours per week, and offering online courses for those who don't have access to public transport and can get to the classroom. Moving on to the highlight of our conversation today, employment. Before we go into employment, let's take a look at the education level that Ukrainians have. So this graph shows you level of education, and we can see here that 55% of people have master's degree, 17% of people have bachelor's degree, 16% have further education degree, and overall 89% of our respondents have education level 6 or higher. Also, what you can see here is two different colors, right? So it's darker blue and paler blue. Like pale blue are people who were unemployed in Ukraine. And dark blue is people who were employed in Ukraine. And you can see that 93% of our respondents were employed in Ukraine. Now, if we add information about their employment here, we can see that it's equally distributed across the education levels. So there is no clear trend of more educated people are getting jobs quicker. So we couldn't identify this trend. But what I just wanted to show you is that in Ukraine, majority of people were employed. And here it's a bit of a different situation. So let's find out why. Let's find out what is the reason, what are the obstacles, what are the barriers. So first of all, qualification confirmation. Let's see if their education, if their qualification is even recognized here. So for 23% of people, they do not have to confirm their qualification, so they're fine. 40% of people said that they need to confirm their qualification, and 31% didn't even know. Now let's look into those 40% into a bit more detail. Now, 2% of those people have already confirmed their qualification. 13% are going through qualification process right now. And then 35% struggle to navigate confirmation process. And then 47%, pretty much every second person, haven't even started to figure this out. So I asked myself, why? And the answer was right in front of me. This graph shows you English fluency. This shows number of people who speak basic to intermediate English language. And you can see that people who either completed or going through confirmation process, number of people with basic or intermediate language is smaller, much smaller. And people who struggle to navigate it, it's more than 60%. People who haven't started it, more than 60%. So the reason why people can't turn their head around the confirmation process might be one of the key reasons is language. Now, if we talk about employment in Ukraine, we can see a variety of years of experience. So we have young professionals as well as mature professionals. In terms of employment by type in Ukraine, and by the way, you might notice that it does not equals to 100. That's because we asked people what type of employments they had throughout their entire career. So different stages of career, they could have different types of employment. 84% had employment experience, 23% have experience of running their own business, and 11% had experience of freelance work. Now, interestingly enough, 62% of people who used to own business in Ukraine have English fluency below, online audience, are you awake? Below average, below average. So it means that unfortunately, business owners who used to run business in Ukraine and found protection from war here, 2 out of 3 of them speak poor English. And we will see how it impacts their abilities to run business here. So remember that sign, we'll see it again. So let's now move from situation in Ukraine to what's happening here in Ireland. How people looked for a job. So this graph is ordered by success of job finding. So you see that employed are in blue, and you can see that majority of respondents were able to find employment through recommendations by friends and acquaintances. And 13% of unemployed people are still trying to do the same. Now, 20% of people found their employment through employment websites, and 33% of people are trying to follow their steps. And then we can see that bringing CV in person is quite effective. And many people are still trying to find work in social media and Telegram chats, but that does not work too well for many people. 6% were able to find it. Now, in terms of challenges in the job search process, of course, challenge number 1 is not enough English fluency to work on the profession that they have. So in together, it's 52% of people reported this as a challenge in looking for a job. 22% of them are actually employed, but it doesn't mean that they're employed by their profession. Now, second biggest challenge is lack of transport to work. And we will talk about that in a minute, because if we combine it to accommodation uncertainty, and if we combine it with the fact that 84% of people are staying in state-provided accommodation, that gives us a very interesting insight. But before we go there, I just want to say that 24% can't work by profession, 10% of them still employed, most likely not by profession. And then requalification is lengthy, status uncertainty was reported as a job search challenge for 18%, and 15% reported they had no challenges looking for a job, which is again fantastic. And we're happy to hear it. Now, I would like you to remember that transport number, and I would like you to remember it in a few minutes when we get back to it. I would like to transport you in a minute to Ukraine before the war broke. So we asked people various questions, trying to establish not just the blunt facts, but also the kind of circumstances. So we asked people what kind of income level they had in Ukraine. And 4% had to save on food, 11% had enough for food saved for clothes, 39% had enough for food and clothes and had to save for big purchases, and then 42% had enough for food, clothes, big purchases, and then they needed only to save for mortgage or for car loan. And then 4% could buy anything they want at any time. Now, we cross-referenced this information with another question. And that question was, what was the city size where you worked in Ukraine? And I know that this is not straightforward for our respected Irish audience, how much the size and the urbanity of the city impacts people's well-being and people's ability to succeed. And this graph shows you that number of people. In green, we see people who lived pretty much a middle-class life, that it increases for people who used to live in cities with more than 500,000 people. So what it tells us is that Ukrainians learned how to succeed in big cities. So this is something that just happened to them. And interestingly enough, more than half of them actually arrive from very, very big cities, from Odessa, from Kharkiv, from Kyiv, from Donetsk, from Lugansk. So there are many big cities that were impacted by war. So it's hardly a surprise that more than half of people arriving in Ireland are from big cities, and they know how to navigate big city life. Now, another interesting fact that another interesting fact about Ukraine is that public transport is very effective and widespread in Ukraine, meaning you can live a very, very good life and you might not know how to drive. And people here who are Ukrainians, I'm happy for you to challenge this statement, but I know that you won't. So especially this is true for big cities. So unfortunately, we did not see it coming that lack of public transport will be #2 challenge for people to find employment. But when we started to see what other data we have, this we think is one of the illustrations into why it is such a big problem, because people living in big cities, the public transport there can get them places, the intercity transport is working really well, and even now in the times of war, so people did not have to learn to drive to live a happy and successful life. So this is probably the biggest insight from the entire survey, that lack of public transport here in Ireland and lack of people's access to public transport is one of the biggest obstacles for people to be employed. And what we ask Irish government to do is to prioritize state-sponsored accommodation that has access to public transport. We understand and respect that there are multiple different criteria that come into prioritization of accommodation. We are grateful for the same fact that the accommodation is available for Ukrainians. However, it is absolutely critical that people can get around, that people can leave their place where they reside and can go get English courses, they can get a job. And especially this is true as soon as the new regulation will come in and people will be offered temporary accommodation only for 90 days. If that temporary accommodation will be not connected to public transport, it will mean that people will not be able to find employment, they will not be able to find English courses, and they will not be able to help themselves to build their life further after those 90 days. So we would like to ask teams who are responsible for prioritizing accommodation to look into this and to prioritize the accommodation with public transport. And we know from people that when they rent, this is one of the kind of reasons that they have power over this. And when they are not in a position to rent yet, this is a challenge. Now, let's look into employment in Ireland. 43% of our respondents are employed. 43, it's a coincidence, are looking for a job, same number. And this graph shows you much more details on that. So let me help you to navigate this as well. We can see 3% increase of people who are employed by qualification. We can see 10% increase in number of people who are employed not by qualification. And we can see a drop of 5% of people who are looking for a job. Now, I want to highlight the business owners here, those fabulous 2%. I know how not easy it is for them to start again here, but 2% own business or doing freelance work, so well done. In terms of segments, of course, we had a bit more data on experience in Ukraine, just because people had more experience in Ukraine. So these are top 10 segments. You can see that sales, retail, and purchasing is #1. Education, teaching follows. Food and beverages, accountancy and taxation, engineering, transport, fashion, healthcare, computers, and construction are the top 10 segments. And 69% of people, so pretty much 2 out of 3 people, have experience in more than one segment throughout their career. In Ireland, top 4 areas are food and beverages, tourism and hospitality, sales, retail and purchasing, and community and voluntary. And the reason why I included only top 4 is because the rest of the segments had just very small percentages. So we will have all the data in our full report that you will be accessed on our website, ukrainianaction.ie, and in the research segment, you will be able to find full report with all the segments and all the numbers. Comparing the two kind of realities, we can see that only tourism and hospitality were able to increase their numbers by 1.6%, and then also community and voluntary workers, that was pretty much at the bottom of segments for Ukraine, have increased by 1%. And then we can also see the significant drop. So people who are in accountancy and taxation, very little number of them were able to find employment. And by the way, they talk about it a lot in the comments of our survey, saying that the requalification is very expensive and very lengthy. Then education and teaching dropped as well. And of course, sales, retail, and purchasing, even though they're in top 3, they still dropped most of all, just because they were number 1 in segments in Ukraine. However, people are not giving up. They are studying. 13% of our respondents are getting their next education level in Ireland. 3% are studying online in Ukraine, and 10% of them are getting their next education level in Ireland. Now, I assumed when I saw this data that those are students. Pretty much those should be people under 25, but I was wrong. No, many people older than typical student age are getting their education, especially here in Ireland. So what we see here is people are trying to integrate through being retrained and re-entering the employment market with the new skills that they obtained here. Now, 12% of our respondents have experience of leaving or changing a workplace. Reasons for that, most popular reason is higher salary. Well, good. But then reason number 2, shorter commute. You heard it from me before, right? Transport again. Better packages, again, good. Could not fit in, 16%. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then other reasons, sorry, yeah, that was me highlighting the shorter commute. And then other reasons are contract expiry. Again, this is something that we missed, that many people are hired on a contract basis. Forced relocation, seasonal nature of work, people changing part-time to full-time, and some people were affected by layoffs. So that kind of explains this 14%. And we also have other reasons here, more positive ones: found employment by profession, confirmed qualifications. So that's great, but still quite a few percent of people managed to do it. Now, let's look into what kind of challenges people faced during employment. 66% faced no challenges. So 2 out of 3 people entered employment, and they are staying in employment without any challenges. And I would like to thank each and every employer and each and every team member who made it possible, who were welcoming and accommodating. This is amazing. Now, 21% reported cultural differences. When I analyzed this data, I thought, okay, I will try to see if there is any one segment that did not have this mentioned, because pretty much the statistics was very clear in all segments. I found one, it was music. And I thought, oh my God, this is so poetic. People who work in music, they don't have cultural challenges. Well, guess what? They're not paid on time, so they're still here. but it was very encouraging for me to know that the language of music kind of beats the cultural differences. But sorry, back to being serious, cultural differences are reported from all the sectors evenly. Other challenges are psychological discomfort. We're talking here about threats, about blackmail, and psychological pressure. 2% were not paid of time. Some people experienced harassment. Some people were not paid at all. And 0.3%, which is 7 people, in an anonymous survey reported physical violence at the workplace. Now, I would like to look into the other section a bit more. because it's where people told us a lot of stories. So first of all, they struggle from language barrier, but not in terms that they can do the work, but in terms of communication and understanding. They said that they are in very physically challenging work, and it's very hard for them. They said that they experience discrimination on nationality basis. They said that they are paid unfairly compared to their colleagues, and they're doing harder work and paid less. They reported disrespect, and they reported unreasonable workload. So that is 9% of our respondents. Majority of those reports come from two areas: food and beverages and tourism and hospitality. And these are just numbers, but the story behind the numbers is very typical. It's someone who is very responsible, who came to Ireland, who really wants to integrate, who tried to find employment by profession, were told that you have no chance, you're Ukrainian, you have to go work in, let's say, in a hotel. So they go work in a hotel. It's very physically challenging. They never worked physically. They see that they're not treated equally well to their colleagues, and they suffer from it. So it's not one story, it's just many stories. It's dozens of stories just combined into these numbers. 51% did not ask for help. Some people quit. Some people, they told us about what they did. Some people just accepted it. 23% asked for help and received it. And I would like to celebrate that number, because every fourth person were able to go to their employer and have a conversation, and employer were there for them, were open to make amendments and to agree on the better approach. So this is amazing, and I would like to say huge thanks to everyone who experienced this in their workplace and who managed to navigate it. And then 11% asked for help and did not get it. Now, there was one more question that we asked people. When we do these big segments, we often say, is there anything you want to add? So we never know what will come back in this kind of questions. So this time, some people just were full with gratitude. Wonderful people, wonderful country, all is great, thank you very much. Some people had very precise questions. I'm still running a business in Ukraine. Will I be double taxed in Ireland for this income in 2024? So very kind of precise. But then the rest of them were not so positive. In triage shares, open positions not relevant to me. Can anyone take a look at my CV and advise? I have no choice, no chance to find employment where I live. There is simply no opportunities. I do not understand what am I doing wrong in looking for a job. I want a real piece of advice. Studying English would be so much quicker if I could start employment in an understanding team. Can you share, that's a question to us, to Ukrainian Action. Can you share where in Ireland people are more tolerable towards Ukrainians? And then it dawned on me that we will always be immigrants here. I felt it since I started working. The attitude is very different. So now, how do we swim out of this lake of frustration? Well, let's take structured approach. Number one, insight number one, Ukrainians are well-educated, skilled, and were gainfully employed in Ukraine. Many still struggle to navigate the Irish job market and to receive any feedback from potential employers. This was top one challenge that people just don't hear back. So what we would like to see is facilitated access to skilled jobs by offering a number of approaches. First of all, mentorship programs during the entire job search period, and hands-on assistance with CVs and the job seeking process to help process the feedback, to help understand the feedback, to help adjust to the employment world in Ireland. And then some maybe seminars, webinars with Q&As to spread awareness on what is typical and can be expected during the job search in Ireland, such as average time to find employment by profession. And what I want to add here is that you remember that most of their people are still trying to find employment through websites. Well, the actual effective way is through knowing people and personal recommendations. So people might just be doing not the right thing to enter employment in a skilled profession, and this is why they need help just to navigate this market and to understand how to how to find offer that is suitable for them. Insight number 2, Ukrainians are facing cultural differences during the job search process and throughout their employment. So what we would like to ask is to facilitate cross-cultural education and understanding between communities, and also to spread awareness with Irish public and employers about capabilities of Ukrainian community, because we feel that Ukrainians are still fighting that stigma, the refugee stigma, that if you're a refugee, you're only good for low-skilled, low-paid work. So it's probably our question, are they? Now, if we compare work experience in Ukraine and Ireland, it's pretty even distribution. 35% said that they enjoy working in Ukraine more, and that the reason why is because they had more senior or expert role, they were business owners there, and they're unqualified workers here, they have no job satisfaction here or in hard physical labor, and they're paid less. Now, 30% of people are very happy working in Ireland. They say that they have better pay here, better work culture, more opportunities, life-work balance, and better working conditions. And then 35% said that there is no big difference. Now, if we compare people's experience and if we apply the knowledge of their English fluency, we can see that people who speak better English are much more happier with their experience here than people who speak poor English. So that's another insight, that better English fluency allows to enter employment where people are happier. Now, in terms of employment satisfaction, despite everything I said, 61% of people reported positive employment experience in Ireland, which is brilliant. And I know I've highlighted some negatives a couple of minutes ago, but I just want to highlight that 61% reported positive employment experience, and another 30-something% reported neutral experience, which altogether gives us 93%. Now, if we take a look at the more colorful version of this, we will be able to see that blue color stands for people who are employed by qualification. And you can see a clear trend here that people who are employed by qualification are much more happier. But then it's people who are employed not by qualification are pretty happy as well. So that's great. And thank you very much again for everyone who opened the doors of their businesses to Ukrainians. Now, 94% of unemployed people are planning to work in Ireland. Among them, 64% have certain obstacles on this journey. And 23% reported that small children are the obstacle. And again, not surprisingly, considering that the majority of them are women. Student are 14%, and then 13% shared with us that they have poor health, including mental health, and there are other issues reported as well. Now, we would like to briefly compare income level in Ukraine and in Ireland. So this information you already saw in a different representation. This is income level in Ukraine, and you can see that majority of people fall into the 4th category, with many people being in the 3rd category where they needed to save for big purchases. Now, what is their income level now in Ireland? So we can see that there is many more people whose income level dropped, but it didn't drop too far. It dropped from 4th to 3rd and sometimes further to 2nd. People told us why. People said that state-sponsored or provided accommodation is a big factor in keeping a decent level of life. And we would like to highlight that we're very grateful for the opportunities and for the fact that state is helping people and Ukrainians with accommodation, because this allows people to keep decent level of life. And we're very grateful for that. Now we're done with employment. Very quickly, let's look into volunteering. So 13% of people volunteer on a regular basis, 39% of people volunteer from time to time, and then 43% have never did it. And then on this graph, you can see the main the main directions of their volunteering efforts, participation in events or charity organizations, community centers, 25%, cleaning, gardening, pet care, 17%, translation services, that is them helping Ukrainians with translations, is 16, etc., etc. The most heartwarming stories came from people who helped in charity shops. I take it that it's a very rewarding experience for them. Now, let's look into the final remarks. I know that there is a lot of interest in that number that I've shared with you at the beginning, that 53% of people are willing to stay in Ireland longer term. So I thought that I will introduce you to those people who want to stay. Again, very quickly. 70% of them are women. 92% said that their health is from medium to healthy. 89% have a profession, educated. 93% of them were employed in Ukraine. 17% of them are getting the next education level, and 13% of them in Ireland. 85% of them studying English. 12.5% of them rent, and I want to highlight that half because good job. Sorry. Yeah. 59% engaged in volunteering. 52% of them have children under 18, and 51% of them, which you would notice is higher than average, are or were employed in Ireland. Only 11% by profession. Now we have one last message to Irish government and people. If you attended this presentation before, you know that we always ask this question. And of course, 93% of people know and recognize that Ireland is a safe place for them. They're extremely grateful to both government and people. And it's very rarely when people just say thank you. Normally it's thank you and something. And before we finish, I just wanted to share that little somethings with you. Please, thank you. Please look at the skills, not into the passport. Thank you. Give us opportunities. We will deliver results. Thank you. We are a fresh view and we can help Ireland too. Please let us. And with that, thank you very much for your attention. Guys, I think we will turn on the questions on the for our online audience, if anyone is still there. And I'm happy to take questions.